this paper, we will attempt to approach the Kosovo problem between Serbs and Albanians from a non-territorial perspective, and by focusing particularly on cultural heritage. In the first place, such an attempt may seem counterintuitive. While the NTA arrangements are not novel in Serbia and have been employed rather successfully, for instance, in the case of Hungarian minority in Vojvodina, we heard yesterday more about it. Kosovo issue appears to be essentially a territorial one, and therefore it cannot be resolved effectively by a non-territorial approach. So in other words, is it not too late to talk about NTA arrangements regarding Kosovo? The Kosovo problem could be summarized for the purposes of this presentation as follows. Serbian claims are essentially based in history. Kosovo has been an autonomous part of Serbia within the former Yugoslavia. It has numerous Serbian medieval churches and monasteries of outstanding value, and some of those churches and monasteries are part of the UNESCO World Heritage. They witness centennial Serbian presence in Kosovo. Kosovo was ruled by Serbian medieval rulers, and it is the place of a decisive medieval battle where basically Serbian Empire collapsed and the Turks became rulers of Kosovo for the next 5 centuries or so. Albanian claims are basically based in demographics. Albanians comprised a clear majority of population in Kosovo ever since, let's say, proper censuses have been held from later part of the 19th century onwards, and are presently comprising over 90% of the population. The Albanians boycotted Serbian institutions under Slobodan Milošević's rule in the 1990s. What followed was an armed conflict between insurgents and the Serbian police, which ended by NATO bombing the then Yugoslavia and ending Serbian sovereignty in 1999. In 2008, Kosovo unilaterally proclaimed independence from Serbia, which Serbia considers illegal, and has since been recognized by 23 out of 28 EU countries, and altogether by, say, half of all countries in the world. It is a member of several important international bodies, but not of UNESCO, of Interpol, and UN. So to sum up, basically the Kosovo issue appears to be fundamentally a territorial one. It can be Albanian or Serbian, function either under Kosovo state sovereignty or under Serbia state sovereignty. No other option is plausible. You can't have a joint custody so that Serbs get Kosovo on weekdays and Albanians get it for weekends and holidays. Yet what we submit here is that the Kosovo issue actually comprises 3 related but separate problems. First, the ultimate status of northern Kosovo, which still has a stable Serbian majority, and where the presence of Kosovo state is mildly felt at best, if at all. This issue has been a subject of debates, proposals for land swaps, for its formal accession to Serbia in exchange for Serbian recognition of Kosovo independence and the like. Hence, it is at present, we believe, less rewarding to talk about this particular aspect of the Kosovo issue and to observe it from NTA perspective. The second issue would be Serbs living in enclaves. So Serbs living south from the river Ibar, which is basically, if you see the gray color, this is the northern Kosovo, which is with Serbian majority, and these light blue and dark blue colors are basically the gaps of remaining Serbs within Kosovo. These Serbs live surrounded, so in enclaves, surrounded by Albanian population. And also the third aspect, so the second aspect would be what will happen to the Serbs in the enclaves. And the third aspect of the Kosovo issue would be this question of churches and monasteries. If you compare the map showing the most important Serbian monasteries, you can see that basically most of them are in the area with a huge Albanian majority, even with 100% Albanian population. I'm talking about Ljeviška, Dečani, Gračanica, and Pečka Patriarchia. And even in the cases of Gračanica and Velika Hoča, which are like Serbian enclaves, even those monasteries which are within the Serbian enclaves are still in the places where basically Serbs present only a handful of people surrounded by a vast majority of Albanian population. So given our time constraints, we will focus in this presentation only on legal framework surrounding Serbian religious and cultural heritage. Our article in general considers other issues, but we will focus on this here. The issue of national cultural autonomy has been a rather lively and fruitful field in Europe in recent decades, and especially we had its application in Central and Eastern Europe in the last decades, also in the Baltic states, as you know very well. Thereby, it seems worth considering if this perspective can bring some added values in the discussion over Kosovo, particularly since at present there has been a long standstill in any negotiations between Serbs and Albanians about normalization process or about the ultimate resolution of the Kosovo situation. So if one wishes to apply the NTA approach to Kosovo, the first big question regarding the question of autonomy is autonomy for whom and autonomy from whom. The position of the Serbian Orthodox Church and of several Serbian political parties and mutatis mutandis of Serbian regime is basically that Albanians should be the one receiving autonomy within Serbia. Of course, the position of Albanians in Kosovo is the other way around. Serbs and their heritage can at best enjoy autonomy within the Kosovo state. Here, I think we need to be brutally honest and recognize that no matter what the ultimate agreement might involve, crucial Serbian monasteries are located, as I said, in the regions with almost exclusively Albanian population. In those locations, the Kosovo state enjoys at present undisputed sovereignty, and it is beyond imagination that such situation would likely change in the foreseeable future. So that's why we are focusing on what's the legal status surrounding Serbian heritage and Serbian monasteries in southern and central part of Kosovo. When we are talking about the legal framework, in the last 15 or so years, a number of laws were enforced granting substantial autonomy and legal protection of Serbian monasteries. Among those laws, we could name a few, but one of the most important ones is law on special protective zones, which says from 2008, from just before the independence, which says, for example, Serbian Orthodox monasteries, churches, other religious sites, as well as historical and cultural sites of special significance for the Kosovo Serb community, as well as other communities in Republic of Kosovo, will enjoy this special status. These laws were made by Kosovo Albanian institutions. Effectively, they were essentially enforced upon Albanians by the international community as a condition for recognizing their independence. So it's not a surprise that most of these laws basically follow from the so-called Ahtisaari plan, or the comprehensive proposal how to solve the Kosovo issue proposed by UN envoy Marti Ahtisaari in 2003. In 2007, Ahtisaari made a clear comprehensive proposal stipulating these legal requirements. One of these statements says that the Serbian Orthodox Church in Kosovo shall be afforded the protection and enjoyment of its rights, and those Serbian cultural sites which are considered to have special significance for Kosovo Serbs will be provided with security by the Kosovo police force. What this plan envisioned is also construction of some special protective zones where Serbian Orthodox Church enjoys autonomy. No construction is allowed. Admittance to these sites can be made only with the consent of Serbian Orthodox Church. Some of these elements are also inserted in the Kosovo Constitution. However, the biggest difference is that, of course, in Kosovo Constitution, all these sites are labeled as Kosovo heritage, whereas in Ahtisaari's plan, it's particularly said that this is property of Serbian Orthodox Church and Serbian heritage. What is also important to emphasize within the current situation is that in case of a conflict or a clash or some kind of wider legal dispute, Kosovo regulations recognize that the Ahtisaari plan will have priority over the Kosovo Constitution. Another element which is enforced by the international community to secure that these laws are respected is that none of these laws, which are labeled within the Constitution as special laws, cannot be changed without clear agreement from the part of minorities. Therefore, 2/3 are required to change this law, plus consent of the minorities. So nothing can be changed within this respect without the consent of the Serbs and the Serbian Orthodox Church. Of course, we could have a separate presentation about the troubles. The legal framework, we can say, is favorable for the Serbian Orthodox Church and for the Serbs in general. Implementation is another issue. There have been and still are huge problems in implementing these laws. Not the least is that they were implemented and adopted basically as enforced legislation immediately before the Kosovo Declaration of Independence as a condition of the international community for Kosovo to be recognized. So far, quite a few of these laws have not been fully implemented. There are violations of these laws being done on a daily basis. There is no enforcement procedure. There is no penal procedure to deal with what is going on if these laws are not respected. However, if we put all that aside, basically this legal framework now regulates cultural heritage is, we can say, favorable. However, while international actors had crucial role in initiating and passing the laws, they were not successful in securing their full implementation or changing the hearts and minds of the Kosovo citizens and their attitudes towards minorities and their cultural heritage. Prior to 2008, Kosovo politicians clearly understood the need to abide to the EU demands in exchange of recognition of independence. And even in 2010, 2012, 2011, it still appears that the prospects of EU accession was something that would motivate and force Kosovo officials to implement these laws. Meanwhile, Brussels' legitimacy and authority have been seriously undermined everywhere, and so is the situation in Kosovo as well. In conclusion, Serbian heritage has so far been essentially a divisive issue. Kosovo officials trying to register these monasteries in UNESCO as Kosovo heritage, and Serbian officials making efforts to block and prevent them from doing so. For Kosovo, the UNESCO membership would represent an important step towards full recognition, which is still hampered by the Russian veto of the UN seat. Similarly, Serbian state officials and media commonly presented the question of Serbian cultural heritage in Kosovo as the matter of national sovereignty. The question of legal status that Serbian cultural heritage enjoys in Kosovo seems to be virtually absent from public discourse on both sides. Although it is, as we argue, precisely the legal status of Serbian monasteries in Kosovo rather than the sovereignty issue that determines their destiny in the long run. So shifting the focus from the question of sovereignty to the legal status of cultural heritage in Kosovo seems to be a possibly productive option in the long run. However, for the moment, both sides are investing considerable efforts in proving their exclusive rights to heritage instead of negotiating something that we might, imagine perhaps as a joint custody. Okay, thank you.